Welcome to Fox Saturday Baseball. I'm Jeff Conine, here to give you the New York Mets starting lineups. Leading off, shortstop, Jose Reyes. Batting second base, Luis Castillo. Hitting third base, David Wright. Batting cleanup, playing center field, Carlos Beltran. Batting fifth, playing left field, Moises Alou. Batting sixth, playing first base, Carlos Delgado. Batting seventh, playing right field, Sean Green. Batting eighth, catching, Ramon Castro. And today on the mound for us is Oliver Perez.
Jeff Conine, the former Marlin, a couple of world championships with the Marlins. Mets lineup brought to you by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. And that Mets lineup will face Byung-Hyun Kim. It's been quite a ride for him this year, Tim.
Well, I should say so. Trying to become the first Marlin pitcher to win double digits. And the Mets are stacking the lineup with 5 left-handed hitters. They do that normally, but against Kim, it's going to be particularly effective, one would have to think, because left-handers have hit over 300 against Kim this year.
Kim trying to win 10 ball games with an ERA over 6. Budweiser, the perfect balance of flavor and refreshment. Open up a world of taste. Ready to play ball here at Dolphin Stadium, and don't let the empty seats fool you. This one has a great deal of importance. Meaningful September baseball here in Miami, and certainly the Marlins, who face the Mets here in this series. They'll play the Mets once again at the end of the season, and then they'll have the Cubs coming at next. So the Marlins can affect 2 National League divisional races. Jose Reyes leads off. First pitch of the ball game is in there for strike 1, and here we go. New York winning last night, and with 9 games to play, a game and a half ahead of the Phillies, but 2 games ahead of the Phillies in the loss column. Jose Reyes at .290 coming in with 10 home runs, 52 driven in. He's stolen 78 bases. And that one is a fair ball down the line. Extra bases for Reyes. Hermida gets it back to the infield, and the Mets started with a bang here this afternoon. A leadoff double by Jose Reyes.
That's that slider from Kim. He has a fastball that goes away from left-handers, and the slider moves so much that recently, when Chase Utley of the Philadelphia Phillies was about to swing, the slider was behind him. I mean, about 2 feet behind him. That's how much it breaks into the left-hander. Jose Reyes starting things off for the Mets here.
Immediately into scoring position for Luis Castillo. Castillo been bothered by a knee injury this year. It slowed him down a great deal on the base paths, but he can do that as good as anybody, trying to get Reyes over to third.
Maybe better than anybody in the major leagues with David Wright on deck. Luis Castillo with the runner on at second base. Nobody gets the runner to third any more proficiently than Castillo.
Castillo coming over from the Twins. Once a Marlin. Matter of fact, he was on that 2003 World Championship team in Florida. And a 60 stolen base threat at one point in his career. Hasn't been the case this season, though.
Luis, the all-time Marlins leader in games played, hits, runs, stolen bases, and sacrifices.
Sat out Thursday's game. 4-game series between these 2 teams. And there's a good bunt. Right to Cabrera, only play to first. That's a ball that Castillo in the past has beaten out for a hit, but he's a sacrifice bunt. And delivers Reyes to third base.
Limping down to first base. Cabrera playing in, expecting and anticipating the bunt all the way, and he gets Castillo easily at first base.
Leadoff double by Reyes. Castillo sends him to third base, and now David Wright. 30-30 season this year, putting together one of the great seasons in Mets history, and certainly making a run at an MVP this year.
Only 2 other Mets in their history have had 30-30 seasons. Howard Johnson did it 3 times. Darryl Strawberry did it in 1987. And of course, David Wright this year.
And you look at this lineup, these Mets, and there's a lot of talk about the recent struggles over the last 8 days. They've lost 6 of 8, but it's also a ball club that won 10 out of 12 to get to that 7-game lead before they hit the skids here in the middle of September. Wright drives one to left. That is down for a hit and a run for the Mets. David Wright with a run batted in. A quick strike for the Mets here in the first inning against Byung-Hyun Kim.
Again, that slider down and away, and David Wright keeping that front side in there, and plates the first Met run of the afternoon.
So the Mets on the board and Beltran back in the lineup. Some question whether he would be able to play today. Injured his knee yesterday on a defensive play in the outfield. Had to leave the game in the 5th inning. And here was that play. Not much of a strike. It's the one to the ground that had the Mets concerned whether Beltran would be able to make the lineup here today. Wright takes off. Got a stolen base for David Wright. So
no
number
chance.
32.
No chance for Matt Trainer, the catcher. Among the many woes of Byung-Hyun Kim, still trying to recover from that debacle during the 2001 World Series against the Yankees, giving up game-tying home runs in the 9th inning 2 consecutive days in games 4 and 5. But among the many woes of Byung-Hyun is throwing the first base, holding the runners close. You can really get a good jump against him.
Well, if it wasn't for Luis Gonzalez, they may still be talking about Byung-Hyun in a different light.
Boy, did he take him off the hook in a big way. Gonzalez's hit against Mariano Rivera, and Arizona won it, not the Yankees.
Kim was in the big leagues at the age of 20. He's now in his 9th year in the major leagues. He'll turn 29 later this season. Beltran a little bit out in front of that off speed. And gets a piece of Matt Trainer.
Kim also the type pitcher who will get a lot of foul tips. The catcher, it looked like it came under that protective cup that catchers wear. You can see it bounce one time, hitting Matt Wright in the groin.
And takes a minute for himself. A visit to the mound. Umpire wipes off home plate. Everybody's in the game here,
right,
giving the catcher a minute. So Trainer able to get his wits. David Wright singled in Reyes for the game's first run. The Mets with 2 hits. Their first 3 batters. Castillo, the only out, dropped a bunt down to move Reyes over to third. And now it's Beltran. Another big year as well. 30 home runs, 105 RBIs coming in. Called strike 3 on the inside corner, and Beltran is down on strikes. Second out of the inning.
That's an area to left-handed batters that Kim will get burned on. However, he just catches the inside corner. And Beltran takes a call, 3rd strike. Looked like it had the front part of the plate, even though Trainer caught it off the plate.
Moises Alou now. 25-game hit streak for the Mets. He's just one away from the franchise record, which was set by the man at second base and David Wright. Talked about the wild ride that Kim has been on. You have to go long and far to find a pitcher who was designated for assignment twice, but ends up with one of the teams that designated him for assignment. That means they gave up on him, and yet when he became available once again, they signed him and put him in the rotation to finish the year.
You know, what a wacky year it's been for Kim.
Started as a Colorado Rocky, was traded to the Marlins in that deal for Jorge Julio, and then the Marlins designated him for assignment. He was picked up by the Arizona Diamondbacks. He actually pitched against Florida, while a member of the Diamondbacks, Arizona, said they've had enough, and the Marlins said, hey, well, maybe we'll give him another shot. He could use a good arm.
Done well for Florida also, 8-3 on the year. Freddie Gonzalez has seen a starting staff with at least 10 victories for all 5 starters last year, and not even close to that this year.
That sweeping breaking ball from Byung-Hyun Kim and Alou out in front.
That's that slider like the Energizer Bunny. Just keeps going and going and going. Slide, slide, slide.
Kim coming off his 800th career strikeout, but he struck out Beltran for the second out of the inning. And now a ball and 2 strikes on Moises Alou. A .341 hitter. Now Alou extended the hit streak to 25 yesterday, the oldest player in the big league history with a 20-plus game hit streak. At 43, he keeps churning along. Full count with Delgado on deck. Delgado getting his second straight start for the Mets.
That last pitch, Matt, an indication. I was thinking of Matt Trainer when he caught that ball, but that last pitch was an indication of just how much that pitch slides. You can see Matt going after it.
3-2 pitch with Wright at second base, and Alou spoils it foul. Now, Alou, one of the best fastball hitters in the big leagues. He's been battling a quad injury this year. Had to leave Tuesday's game when he twinged the quad. That's the injury that sat him down for a good part of the schedule. But no time to rest this time of year, especially the way the Mets have been going here lately.
And we talked about it in the opening, the ups and downs normally. No time for downs at this point in the season.
That's on the board. Alou trying to deliver right. Off the end of the bat to Hanley Ramirez. Low throw, and that is going to score a run. The Florida Marlins committed 6 errors yesterday, a franchise record, and it's Ramirez who throws one away, and the Mets have 2 runs here in the first inning.
Kevin Kennedy talked about it in the pregame show. Some of the careless errors that the Marlins infielders make. They have a terrific offense on the infielders, but this is just a careless error by Ramirez. 129 errors, and to give you an idea of how many errors that is, it's twice as many as the Colorado Rockies. Twice as many.
Wow. And the Marlins counting on Ramirez as a guy who's a pretty solid defender. That's his 10th error of the year. And a couple errors last night from the corners. And now they have given Carlos Delgado an at-bat here in the first inning. 2 runs are in. Delgado takes a healthy cut at the Kim offering. Well, last night it was a rough night at the office for the Florida Marlins. In a game that endured a 2+ hour rain delay, most of these players not getting back to their beds until about 2 o'clock this morning after a long night at the ballpark. And it's the Marlins who come out shaky defensively once again.
Yeah, Brian, last night Scott Olsen started the game. He gave up 8 runs and all went unearned. All of them. Set a team record.
Inning should be over, but Byung-Hyun Kim still out there trying to get Delgado, who returned to the lineup for the first time since the 4th of September. Made an immediate impact last night. Today's Gillette Fusion Phantom drive of the game. And Delgado going dead central last night here at Dolphin Stadium.
More than any other Met, Delgado should hit Kim more than any other Met. Kim has to stay down. Delgado, a good low ball hitter. That pitch right there, if you're Kim, you don't feel comfortable with that pitch. Delgado's hit that pitch a long way for a long time. Right there.
Delgado works it full. Delgado battling a hip flexor and missed a couple of weeks. But as many of the banged up Mets will tell you, the time is now to get back in the lineup. Sean Green back in the lineup today. And he is on deck. Delgado trying to give him an at-bat. Alou takes off on the 3-2 and Delgado fouls it back. Paul LaDuca noticeably absent from the Mets lineup today. He's been battling a hand injury, and he has been a workhorse for Willie Randolph, a guy who does not miss many games behind the plate.
Boy, is that a nasty looking right hand that Paul is sporting right now. Swollen. Was hit by a pitch this past week. Says he needs 1 day off.
Into left field, back goes Linden. And with the wind swirling, Linden swirling as well, finally runs it down for the out. And the Mets are out, but they get a couple of runs, one of them on an error. 2-0 New York before the Marlins come to bat.
Welcome to Fox Saturday Baseball. I'm Mike Jacobs, and here's today's lineup. Batting first, we got Hanley, H2R Ramirez. Batting second, we got Danny Popeye Ugla. Batting third, Jeremy the Golden Boy Hermida. Batting fourth, Miguel La Tigre Cabrera. Batting fifth, me, Mike Jacobs. Batting sixth, Todd, I only play on the weekends, Linden. Batting seventh, we got Matt Trainer. Batting eighth, we got Brett. We don't have a nickname for him, Carroll. And batting ninth, doing the pitching today, is BK, Byung-Hyun Kim.
Got to get Carroll a nickname.
Good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike Jacobs with the Florida Marlins starting the lineup. Brought to you by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. And here's Oliver Perez facing this Marlins lineup, sitting on 14 wins this year.
Trying to become the Mets' winningest pitcher. And all the Mets are looking for out of Perez is consistency. And you look in the walk slot, those 77 walks right there. Too many. And if Oliver can curb those, then he'll have a good game.
Hanley Ramirez leads off. Perez in the top 10 in the National League in wins, strikeouts, walks, and ERA right now with those 14 wins, a career high. Facing a man who is making a bid at a batting title this year, and Hanley Ramirez checks in at .334 on the season. He's currently third in the National League in batting.
Brian, last year before the Game 7, the Mets and the Cardinals, a game won by the Cardinals, of course, and then they were world champions. Oliver Perez was the starting pitcher for the Mets and pitched well. But before that game, we called Jim Tracy, the manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and asked what area Perez is wild more consistently to right-handed batters. And he said up and away with his breaking ball and his fastball. And sure enough, even though the count's 2-2, the two balls have been up and away to Ramirez.
And the biggest key for Perez is strike one. When he gets ahead, he can be dominating. And Peterson keeping a close eye on his young lefty. Ramirez hits one well, but right at Sean Green. And that That's the first out. We check in with Jeannie for a game break.
Well, gentlemen, the last rain out in Anaheim, June of 1995. It is still the last rain out. The plan is to play ball. If you're waiting on the Angels and the Mariners, we have a time for first pitch, 4:45 Eastern. By the way, if you're in the Anaheim area and you know how to roll up a tarp, I think they could use your help.
It's tarp work for sure. The tarp doesn't get used very often.
That's right. It's brand new. Crinkly, I would imagine.
Angels' magic number is 1, so they're anxious to get started. Hot ground ball out to Reyes. And Dan Uggla going after the first pitch. 2 quick outs for Oliver Perez and the Mets. Perez making his 28th start of the year. Came up with the Padres. Spent a year plus with San Diego, then to Pittsburgh, and then that trade last year that brought him to New York, and had those 2 terrific starts against the Cardinals in the NLCS.
It's been written about and talked about a lot that he was the throw-in. The Mets needed a reliever. They obtained Roberto Hernandez, and Perez a throw-in. Xavier Nady going to Pittsburgh.
So his first full season with New York. He has shown signs of being just one of the dominant left-handers in the game. I mean, he's had those kind of brilliant moments on the mound. I can think back to a matchup with the Brewers earlier this year when he went 8 1/3 and looked unhittable at times against that very good lineup. Didn't get out of the 5th inning in his last start against Philly. Well, this Marlins ball club, they certainly are trying to call this time of year their postseason. They'll have the Mets, then the Cubs, and then the Mets once again. So they'll have a lot to say in the division races. And this is evaluation time for the Florida Marlins. With so many young players on their roster. And the payroll challenge that they deal with here at Dolphin Stadium.
Evaluation time or devaluation time. Depends on how well you're going.
Freddie Gonzalez in the first of a 3-year deal with Florida. And one of the many young managers coming out of the Bobby Cox camp. He's got a talent in Miguel Cabrera, who waits on deck. Hermida trying to get him an at-bat here in the first inning. Mets with 2 runs in the top of the first. Hermida chases, and Perez strikes him out. Fox Saturday Baseball is sponsored by Goodyear, innovative technology to help you get there. By Gillette Fusion Power, the best shave ever. And by Taco Bell, where a little flavor goes a long way. Think outside the bun. And aerial coverage provided to you by Goodyear. When the road throws you a curve, get there on Goodyear Innovation. Dolphin Stadium in South Florida, Miami. And the stadium hunt for this ball club continues. I feel like that will be what puts this organization over the edge, and they can make them a consistent organization as Sean Green leads off for the Mets.
Rumors abound as to whether the stadium will be built, and if so, where. The most recent rumor, Freddie Gonzalez was telling us before the game, perhaps at the Miami Hurricanes will be moving to Pro Player Stadium, and that the city of Miami will tear down the Orange Bowl, and perhaps a stadium built on the spot of the Orange Bowl, but obviously just a rumor.
And because of the setup here, the Marlins basically have their organizational structure, which is build the organization, get as many young, talented players as you can as Kim strikes out Green. Then they get to the point where they make so much money you can't afford them anymore, so you rebuild. Here's a club that has won, or a franchise that has won 2 world championships, as many as the Yankees in the last decade. 97 and 2003. Here's Ramon Castro in for Paul LaDuca. Castro making only his 33rd start of the year. Catching a third of the games for Willie Randolph and the Mets. LaDuca had caught 14 straight before finally getting a day off today to nurse that sore right hand.
The one benefit, and I guess you could call it a benefit, is that the Mets are playing without having to watch the scoreboard because the Phillies play tonight.
First time in a while that's been the case.
Right.
2 up and 2 down for Kim here in the second inning. And maybe of all the cruelties last night, the Mets were out in front, but they had the rain delay. Right. And then they had to go into the clubhouse mid-game and watch the results of the Phillies.
And watch the Phillies beat Washington 6-3. Phillies a game and a half behind the New York Mets and a game and a half behind the San Diego Padres in the wild card.
Mets pitcher Oliver Perez batting. He can handle the bat all right. He gives you the look that he can't, but he swings it okay for a pitcher. He's a 154 hitter. Has 8 hits this year. Kind of like a pitcher who does not use batting gloves.
Gotta love it. Swing hard in case you hit it.
He'd be kind of the pitcher's version of Ichiro. You know what I mean? Not Ichiro.
Yeah, that's good.
But the pitcher's version.
Yeah.
He has that.
Yeah.
I'm already on my way to first swing slash broken bat over the third baseman's head kind of swing going. The roller out to short. Jose Ramirez takes care of him for the out. 1-2-3 inning. Well, it was a 1-2-3 inning for Perez on the mound. Now he'll face Miguel Cabrera. 325 average, 111 RBIs. He'll lead off when we come back. Fox Saturday Baseball is sponsored by Budweiser. Reach for a Budweiser, the perfect balance of flavor and refreshment. Open up a world of taste. Head to the Marlins second inning. Milwaukee Brewers and the Chicago Cubs hooked up in a dandy in the Central. The Cubs with a lead by 1 in the loss column. That's what the Brewers are looking at. Cubs' magic number is 7, and the Braves have the early lead against the young kid Giovanni Gallardo. 1-0 in the second inning.
I botched that up at first for you. Had it right the second time.
Your circler was just
my
little
circler
off.
Was messed up.
Now you keep a close eye on the loss column, and that is the one that matters, especially to the Mets, because they are 2 games ahead of the Phillies in the loss column. Mets do not have a day off the rest of the way. That includes a makeup game Thursday against the Cardinals. Miguel Cabrera putting together a huge season once again after a big payday this offseason. And Cabrera is gone, and Perez looks sharp. Back-to-back strikeouts and 4 straight retired by the Mets lefty.
Brian, you said it in the first inning about how dominant he could be. There are some pitchers who go out there and in the first few innings they show no-hit stuff. And this guy's got no-hit stuff today. You don't know whether he's going to maintain it, maintain the focus or his stuff. I mean, through the first 4 hitters, he has been dominating.
He has certainly been a bright spot for the Mets in September. He has won 2 of his 3 decisions this month. Still only 26 years of age as he faces Mike Jacobs. Jacobs spent about a month on the disabled list with a broken thumb. Not an easy injury for a hitter to come back from. Skies this one to Beltran. 2 up and 2 down here in the second, and 5 straight retired by Perez.
See Perez look back at Ramon Castro, his catcher, and ask him if he had Getty up through the strike zone. A lot of times the hitters will tell you whether that is the case or not. But Castro nodding his head yes.
And talking to some of these Marlins hitters, they say what's tough about Perez is the fact that he's got a couple of arm angles and a couple of different speeds on his breaking ball. He can throw the put-away slider, or he can throw the get-over slider. He throws it the same way, but he can vary his speeds a little bit.
When Jacobs flew out to center field, Perez looked back at his catcher, Ramon Castro, and asked him there was Getty up to his fastball. But you know what he does, the different speeds of the sliders is controlled because of the grip of the ball. He doesn't do that intentionally. Almost no pitcher will go out there and intentionally change speeds on his breaking ball. There are some that do, but most pitchers, if they grip it tightly, the breaking ball is slower. If they grip it loosely, then it's faster. So that usually indicates the speed of the breaking balls, and that is certainly the case with Perez. It's unintentional, but it depends on the grip of the ball. Remember, the tighter the grip, the slower the pitch. A lot of hitters will come back after facing a guy like Perez and say, boy, he's a real smart guy. He took something off. No, he didn't. He just gripped it tighter. This one in the dirt.
Just another case of hitters giving a pitcher too much credit.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Pitchers don't deserve that much credit. At least from a hitter's perspective.
Right.
Todd Linden has worked it into a hitter's count. Per 9 innings, Oliver Perez among the best. Long run in for Beltran. That's going to drop. And this played by Alou. Linden thought about second. Will wisely retreat with 2 men out. Not hit all that hard, but dropped for the first Marlins hit with 2 outs here in the second inning.
Now, Moises Alou, really no way for him to get to that ball with that bad quad he's still nursing. Tried to barehand it. Linden thought about it, but opted to stay at first base. See, that's the thing. If you take your wide turn, then you're in a position to make up your mind. If you don't run hard to first base and take the wide turn, you're in no position to take the extra base. Habits at Major League base runners, they think when they make contact, their at bat's over. It's just beginning. Here it is, real speed. Todd Linden. All you have to do is run hard, and you don't have to do that.
And it puts so much pressure on the defense when you become a player who has that reputation that you're going to go from the get-go.
You've seen a lot of Major League Baseball games. How many Major League Baseball games have you ever seen a left fielder throw behind the runner at first base for taking too big a lead? The guy who taught me that was Pete Rose. You never can take too big a turn at first base if you hit the ball to left field, because they'll never throw behind you. And that was no exception.
And Rose would take that turn around first, and he'd dig up half the infield if he was going back to first.
Yeah, right. It's like a tractor pull.
Ball and 2 strikes on Matt Trainer, the Marlins catcher. Marlins have their first base runner of the game. Mets with 2 runs in the first. And there is a nasty breaking ball from Perez for his 3rd strikeout. We'll be right back after these messages from your local Fox station. Jose Reyes leads off for the Mets, trying to bunt his way on, and an easy play for Kim. 1 pitch, 1 out here in the 3rd inning. Mets got 2 runs in the first. It was an RBI single by David Wright. And then the second run came in on a throwing error by Hanley Ramirez. So the defensive woes for the Marlins continue here this afternoon. After 6 errors yesterday, another one that cost him a run here today. Luis Castillo dropped down a sacrifice bunt his first time up. Kim started his career in the big leagues as a reliever and flourished in that role early in his career before his troubles in the postseason with Arizona back in 01. But he prefers to be a starter, and that's what he wanted to be with the Rockies. He felt like he could be a starting pitcher. That's what he's wanted to be here in Florida. And talking to Freddie Gonzalez, he's a guy who has tremendous discipline, loves the routine, and loves the routine of starting pitching. Count goes full to Castillo. Third time Kim has been full count on a Mets hitter, and he lost it. So the first walk given up, a one-out walk, and that brings up David Wright, who is in pursuit of some Mets history, making a run at an MVP, a 30-30 season for Wright. He stole his 32nd base earlier in this game and joined some tall company in Mets franchise history. Current hitting coach Howard Johnson did it 3 times, and Strawberry in 1987.
I thought David Wright had a legitimate shot at MVP a couple of weeks ago. But J-Roll has been on a roll. Jimmy Rollins, I think, if the Phillies end up in postseason, I think that's going to persuade the voters to vote for Jimmy Rollins as the MVP. In my view, the tear he's been on over the last couple of weeks, defensively, hitting home runs, stealing bases, doing all the things he does. Now, Wright has done that too, but I think more prolifically has been Jimmy Rollins has done that over the last couple of weeks, and I think that's put him slightly ahead of Wright.
And don't forget about Prince Fielder, who is making a run at 50 home runs this year.
Yep.
Already has the franchise record. Wright rips one to right field, caught by Hermida. David Wright hit it well, but now 2 gone. Well, the Phillies have such a great offense. You think the fact that they have 3 players putting up these gaudy numbers takes away from Rollins and his MVP run?
That's an excellent point. I don't think Ryan Howard is going to be the MVP. I don't think Chase Utley. I think Chase losing that 3.5-week period when he broke his hand hurt him a great deal. I think Jimmy Rollins has been the most valuable player on the Phillies, and arguably, and I'm not saying a lot of it could depend on the next week.
Castillo gunned down, trying to steal a base, trying to surprise the Marlins, who were not expecting Castillo to run. Trainer guns him out. It's a 3-batter inning as we go to the Marlins third. Well, a lot of Mets fans here today. A lot of transplanted New Yorkers, and the Mets certainly feeling right at home here at Dolphin Stadium. Oliver Perez pitching well. He's given up only the 1 hit, has 3 strikeouts through the first 2 innings, and gets ahead of yet another hitter. That is 7 out of 8 first pitch strikes for Perez, and that is his recipe for success. Brett Carroll leads off this 3rd inning. Wonder if the Marlins have found a nickname for Carroll yet.
Not enough time.
It's hard to force nicknames. They kind of just have to come to you.
Yeah.
Mike Jacobs going through the Marlins lineup in our open, making that point. Marlins trying to figure out Oliver Perez, first time through the order. Perez coming off a 6-walk performance in his last time out against Philadelphia, and could not get out of the 5th inning. Gave up 5 runs, Tim, and only 2 of those earned runs. Struck out 6 to go along with those 6 walks. It's always the first stat line you go to in a Perez start. How many walks? Mets and Marlins will wrap this series up tomorrow. Another strikeout for Perez, number 4. Back-to-back strikeouts now as he gets the lead out here in the 3rd. Well, you can enter People Magazine's Sexiest Fan Alive contest, and you, that's guy or girl, could be in People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive issue and win a VIP trip for 2 to a 2008 Major League Baseball World Series game. Just go to peoplesexiestfan.com. There's a couple of good candidates right there.
I suppose
anybody can enter.
Oh, that was funny.
Byung-Hyun Kim flailing away at a Perez pitch, and it's quickly 0-2. Now Perez is even at 2-2. Not wanting to mess around with the light hitting Kim, who has 1 hit this year in 29 tries. Struck him out. 3 straight punch outs. Right now, here's Jeannie Zelasco with a game break.
And who says the Cubs don't hit home runs? 4 last night, 4 today. Here is Alfonso Soriano, 2nd on the day. Cubs win. Of course, they began the day with a game-and-a-half lead in the Central. As for those Brewers, they're in Atlanta, and this will be Chipper Jones vying for his first batting title and a Braves win. This helps on both fronts. Solo shot, he's driven in both runs. Braves lead top 4.
Now, Atlanta, one of the hottest teams in the National League. They picked the wrong time of year. For more information on the Brewers and the Braves, you can log on to foxsports.com. Jones making a run at a batting title this year. Chipper hitting for his highest batting average of his career this season.
You know, when you're fighting for postseason play, everybody you play is hot. That's a way you have to approach them, whether it's the Marlins or the Nationals. I mean, the Mets had won 10 out of 11 games against the Washington Nationals. They go into RFK Stadium for the last time to play in that ballpark. They lose 2 out of 3. Could have lost 3 out of 3. And then they lose the first game to the Marlins. That's the one great thing for the teams out of the race. They, as you mentioned earlier, have something to say about what they're going to do. You could see Castro telling Perez, make sure you come through. Don't leave it up and away to right-handers.
Well, the Mets with that game-and-a-half lead, talking about places where they've had success. They had not lost a game here at Dolphin Stadium this year until they lost that ball game Thursday and had 2 3-run leads and lost that game.
They scored 4 in the top of the 9th. The Marlins came back to tie it with 3 in the bottom of the 9th. Then they won it in the 10th inning.
Billy Wagner was the one everyone was looking for Thursday night. Back spasms. He was not able to pitch. And his status for today's game, if the Mets get in that situation, is still up in the air. It literally comes down to when Wagner takes his first tosses in the bullpen, whether he's going to be able to pitch or not.
Right.
Tough on a skipper to have that unknown at the back of the bullpen. And there's Wagner earlier today. This was around 2 o'clock Eastern. He was feeling it out. Rick Peterson, the pitching coach. Billy Wagner, one of those guys scouts like to call max effort on a small frame as well. And you can imagine that back spasms, not something that he could pitch through like a Greg Maddux or a Jeff Suppan.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. That small frame and throwing the ball close to 100 miles an hour attacks the back.
Ramirez pops it up. Should be an easy play for Delgado. It is, and it's a 3-up, 3-down inning. Carlos Beltran, injured last night, back in the lineup today, and he'll lead off when we come back on Fox. Fox Saturday Baseball is sponsored by DHL, delivering America's pastime on time, by beautiful, durable Valspar paint. Valspar, the beauty goes on. And by Chevy. an American revolution. Beautiful day to be on the water today. And as we mentioned at the outset, anything but a beachfront vacation here in South Florida for the Mets here lately. They split the first 2 games of this series. They've only lost here once all season. As New York 6-1 against the Florida Marlins. Carlos Beltran leading it off. Beltran struck out looking. One of 2 Byung-Hyun Kim strikeouts in this game. Byung-Hyun Kim trying to become that rare pitcher who wins double digits and might have an ERA over 6. I don't know what that means other than he's getting the ball regularly.
And he's getting some runs scored too behind him. Marlins with a very good offense. They haven't shown it today, but they can score runs.
And Beltran draws the walk. Well, plenty of baseball next week right here on Fox. The playoff race heats up. Fox Saturday Baseball as the Cubs battle the Reds. The Nationals take on the Phillies, or the Padres square off in Brewtown against Milwaukee. Every game has playoff implications. It's all next week starting at 3:30. Clouds starting to roll in here. South Florida late afternoon thunderstorm territory. And there's the Phillies remaining schedule. A tough trip into Atlanta. The Braves are playing some of the best baseball in the National League right now. Alou drills one into left center, run down by Carroll. Moises Alou squared up on it, but nothing to show for it. A line drive out for the first out of the inning.
Notorious first ball hitter is Moises Alou. Good play by Brett Carroll, and the reaction by Kim. All right. Unabashed cheering. Hey, the one thing that you don't know how he learned it, and I've never really talked to him about it, but somebody convinced him that left-handers, that you can pitch left-handers inside with that particular style of his, and it's wrong. Reason is, when somebody drops down like that, left-handed hitters pick the ball up so well, and when it's inside to him, to a guy like Delgado, it has a tendency to straighten out. It's the easiest pitch for a left-handed hitter to hit against a side armor like Kim. Away should be his target, not in. You can see he continues to go inside. That's one of the reasons that we question the home run by Tino Martinez in the 2001 series. He shook off his catcher Jorge Posada for the inside fastball. But anybody who throws like that should stay away from left-handed batters and not inside. Now the slider, obviously you're going to throw the slider in because it moves that way. But we're talking about the fastball. If you keep living in there, eventually you're going to get burned.
Well, and coming from the bullpen to the starting rotation, which is what Kim prefers to do, that all-important third pitch becomes a factor. He's never really had a good changeup. He's been working on a changeup.
That's true.
Something away from the lefty just to get him off the speed.
You can work on that third pitch with location.
Runner at first and Beltran. And Delgado looks at another one.
By that I mean the fastball is a very adaptable pitch. You can change speeds with it. You can move it to one side of the plate or the other. You can use that as many pitches. And that's really the only pitch that is multi-purpose. In other words, a changeup's a changeup. For the most part, a breaking ball's a breaking ball, even though now it's fashionable to backdoor somebody. But the fastball you can use for different purposes. Inside, outside, take a little off, coming back inside to Delgado.
Now we're talking about Billy Wagner and how hard on the body his delivery is, the max effort. What about for a guy like Byung-Hyun Kim, who has this awkward, unorthodox style of delivery as a starting pitcher, where he's got to go out, sit down, and continue on at multiple starts throughout a year.
He's really never had a lot of arm problems. I don't know. But he has an awful lot of torque in that fastball.
Tried to backdoor Delgado. Just missed. And it's a ball and 2 strikes.
Here's that backdoor breaking ball we were talking about, and it came around the plate outside.
The Marlins, like most other National League opponents, employ the shift on Delgado, the shortstop on the right side of the bag. But the outfield straight away. Pretty good indication that Beltran not quite feeling 100%, or not feeling that the knee is 100%. He has not attempted to run just yet.
And as we pointed out earlier, Kim is the guy that you want to steal against. So if Beltran were, if he felt well at first base, he would be running.
David Wright stole a base in the first inning, and on the error it led to a run. Two and two to Carlos Delgado with 1 out in the Mets' 4th inning after a 2-run first inning. It's about as foul as you can pull one into that Marlins dugout.
It's true, you see right-handed batters squirt balls off to the right, but you rarely will see a left-handed batter pull one that far into the first base dugout.
Rick Vandenherk, one of the many injured starters for the Marlins. Florida has had a run of injuries, and with young pitchers, and we saw it last year with Florida. Anibal Sanchez, who threw the no-hitter. They've had guys who are out extended past innings that they've never seen before in their entire careers, and many of them have come up injured this season. And Josh Johnson and Ricky Nolasco. Delgado strikes out. So Kim makes a big pitch and gets his 2nd out on his 3rd strikeout.
Going out of the strike zone up to get Delgado.
That's the one he calls the upshoot.
It rose. It did. A rose is a rose, Brian.
Threw him the riser.
Yeah.
You don't hear that terminology much, the rise ball.
No, you don't. The old upshoot, riser.
Here's Sean Green.
Well, the one thing that hitters look for off of Kim is anything that stays on the same plane or goes up, because there's no way when he throws from that motion that any breaking ball can go down. The fastball can, but not the breaking ball.
Oh, Green drilled by the pitch. Nobody has hit more batters than Kim in the National League. That's the 15th batter he's hit this season. And now 2 on for the Mets.
That's in only 111 innings. 15 batters in 111 innings, right above the knee. Sean Green gets one. Ouch.
Now Green observing Yom Kippur once again this year. He, as I mentioned, out of the lineup yesterday. So no meals from sundown yesterday to sundown tonight. Says he's done it before. He knows how to train his body to get ready for the observance and ready to play today as Castro steps in there with 2 on for the Mets and 2 men out here in the 4th inning. Mets threatening once again. Castro, who doesn't get a lot of playing time, trying to make the most of it with Paul LaDuca on the shelf today. LaDuca is available to Willie Randolph to pinch hit. There's LaDuca, injured right hand, hit by a pitch.
Paul shaving his head earlier in the week, so he's got about a 4-day growth on his dome now. That was nasty there. Perhaps the best slider that Kim has thrown, the one to Castro. Watch how this ball just disappears.
Well, Castro only a 154 average, but he does well with runners in scoring position and has Beltran in that spot here in the fourth. A 300 hitter with runners in scoring position. Castro fouls it back. Final game of the series tomorrow, and then the Mets return home. They'll play the remaining schedule at Shea Stadium. So to give them a chance to win the series, Mets need a win here today against Florida. There's a drive into left field. This one is way back there, and Castro delivers with a 3-run home run. A 2-out, 3-run shot by Ramon Castro, and the Mets have a 5-0 lead here in the fourth.
Remember that pitch to get to 2 strikes? The slider off the plate away? Kim wanted to come back with that same pitch and hangs it right over the fat part of the plate. Here's the pitch to get to 2 strikes. Off the plate away. Well, that was the pitch before, I beg your pardon. And now the breaking ball, middle of the plate.
Perez swings at the first pitch, and that will do it for the Mets. They get a big shot from their backup catcher. Castro with his 10th home run of the year, and it's 5-0 New York. Well, big home run by the Mets catcher Ramon Castro, a 3-run home run. His 10th of the year, and it gives the Mets a 5-0 cushion. 5 runs on 3 hits for New York. All but one of those runs earned against Byung-Hyun Kim. Oliver Perez against Dan Uggla to lead off this fourth. Uggla hits one well to left. Alou is back and will play this one off the wall. Dan Uggla, with plenty of power in his bat, drives one off the wall in left field for a double, the second Marlins hit against Perez.
Double number 47 on the year for the plucky second baseman of the Marlins. At first pitch up and away, and then he gets a fastball right down the pipe for the first extra base hit of the Marlins on the afternoon.
Now, between innings, we had a chance to talk to Willie Randolph, and the first question about the status of Billy Wagner. Check in with Willie in just a moment, as Dan Uggla just one double shy of Matt Holliday's National League leading mark. That Willie interview is coming. It's close.
It is close.
It's good.
Hang on, it's close.
He's got a lot of things to say. Some gremlins in the truck. That one's pretty well hit. But Alou with room makes the play for the out. As promised, as Uggla tags and makes it to third. That's a base running by the Marlins second baseman. Hang on, Willie. We got some action on the field.
Don't normally see that, but it was good base running by Ugla.
All right, Willie Randolph, how is it managing without Billy Wagner, and what's his status for today?
Well, hopefully he'll be ready, next day or so. We'll see how he feels. He loosens up towards the end of the game, and if he feels comfortable, then we'll get him in there. But I think he's close to being back out there.
Willie, is there any better antacid for your stomach than a 3-run home run by one of your players?
Oh, no, that's good medicine right there, man. I'm telling you. Yeah, Ramon, good to get him back in there. Paulie's a little beat up right now, so Ramon's got a lot of power, and came through big time right there. But he's a guy that's had a good year for us, and is a big hit for him.
Willie, your ball club just banged up a little bit. A lot of nicks, a lot of knacks that you're dealing with. Just talk about the general thought process from the manager's seat with so many little knick-knack injuries that your star players are enduring.
Well, we've been a great club, very resilient, and coming back from injury and dealing with them as a club. We've had our share over the years, and like most clubs, that's what you have to deal with. No excuses. You have to have a good, strong bench. Omar's done a great job of getting us good, solid people off the bench. A guy like Marlon Anderson did a great job the other night, and we have capable backup. So, when you're in the championship season, hopefully you have guys to pick you up, and we've had a share of injuries, but we rolled through it pretty good.
Willie Randolph, thanks for your time.
Okay, guys.
And Willie getting a big shot from his catcher, Ramon Castro, on a day when one of those injuries knocks out his starting catcher, Paul LaDuca. Getting production from those who get a chance.
Home run number 10 for Castro in 133 at-bats.
Cabrera, deep right center field. Long run for Green. He looked out at Beltran first. And it is Green who makes the play. Ugla, because he tagged on the fly ball by Hermida, able to score the run, so the Marlins are on the board. Let's go quickly to Jeannie for an update.
We're taking you to Yankee Stadium. The Pinstripes trailing bottom 6, 2 out. Bases loaded for Alex Rodriguez. Into that right field corner pocket, Doug Minkiewicz. Derek Jeter would score 145 RBI now for A-Rod. Yankees lead 4-3 at that point. Adding on a few more here, Matsui, a 2-run single. The Yankees now out in front, 4-3, bottom 6.
Now Boston 2.5 ahead of New York. Magic number for the Red Sox is 7. Magic numbers and Red Sox don't really go well together. It's not a big topic of conversation right now. Although both of those teams appear to be headed to the postseason. The wild card net that is underneath Big League Baseball.
Yeah, the Yankees 4.5 ahead of the Detroit Tigers in the wild card race. But barring a collapse by a team playing perhaps the best baseball of any team in baseball, the New York Yankees.
And now 6-3 New York. Cubs have already won today. They beat the Pirates. A lot of home runs in that game at Wrigley. Cubs have found their home run stroke here in the last week.
Ramos Ramirez and Alfonso Soriano with 3 home runs over the last 2 days. 3 home runs apiece in the last 2 games.
And the Brewers having to face John Smoltz this afternoon in Atlanta. Brewers are down 2-0. Cubs have put it together at the right time as well. Chicago, they have won 8 out of 10, and Lou Piniella making the adjustment with a couple of days off down the stretch to a 4-man rotation in the month of September. Another one in the air. Easy play for Jose Reyes, and the side retired. The Marlins get a run on a sac fly from Cabrera, and Reyes will be batting when we come back. One of the most exciting players in the big leagues. Mets with a couple of runs in the first inning, one of them unearned, and then a 3-run home run by Ramon Castro, his 10th of the year. Filling in for Paul LaDuca this afternoon, and he has given the Mets a 5-0 lead. Top of the order for New York. Jose Reyes leads off, then Castillo, then Wright. Against Byung-Hyun Kim Kim coming off a 9 earned run performance in 4 innings his last start. That was Monday in Atlanta. In his second tour with the Florida Marlins this year.
Notice this the first time up, Brian. You see Brett Carroll in center field playing toward left center field. In my view, he should be over about 10 steps because Reyes pulling the ball into right field is more likely than him hitting a lazy fly ball the other way. So if you're going to cheat as a center fielder, I think he should cheat toward right center and not left center, particularly with Kim pitching him inside.
Now into the opposite field. Linden there for the out. So Reyes retired. Kim stays away from him. And let's take a look at today's AutoZone strike zone. Perez and Byung-Hyun Kim. First pitch strikes key for Oliver Perez so far today. 11 out of 14. And 21 fewer pitches for Perez, who has been solid today. Did give up the run in the 4th on that sacrifice fly by Cabrera.
Oh boy, that's all he needed. Ailing right knee, and he hammers one off his right foot. Right on the right foot.
Castillo limping quite a bit today and making sure the Marlins noticed that he was limping, because it wasn't too short after that. He tried to steal a base back in the 3rd inning. That was a little surprise.
A little decoy going on.
The trainer threw him out.
No decoy on that last foul ball, however. That ball's going to stick there for a while.
Sometimes instincts just take over for Castillo. He gets to first. He feels like he should run. He's always been a base stealer.
Just getting your body to cooperate with you, that's one of the problems.
Castillo walked his last time up and then was thrown out trying to steal a base. Does not have a plate appearance so far today. He dropped a sacrifice bunt down in the 1st. And Kim strikes him out.
He can't even put weight on that right leg with the knee problem initially, and then the foul ball off the foot. Real tentative swing from Castillo.
Fourth strikeout for Byung-Hyun Kim from Gwangju, South Korea. And already in the big leagues, 9 years. He's 20 when he made it to the big leagues. Be interesting to see where Kim ends up next season as he faces David Wright with 2 outs in the 5th. Wright's had 2 good at-bats. He drove in the first Mets run of the 1st inning with a single to left. He then stole a base and scored the 2nd run. Lined out his last time up. Beltran would be next. So many all-stars up and down this lineup. And it's hard to imagine that an extended run of losing would continue for the Mets with as much talent as they have. Trying to win for back-to-back games for the first time in a while.
Everyone anticipating the Mets separating themselves from the Phillies and the Atlanta Braves. Well, it has not happened, to the credit of the Philadelphia Phillies.
They'll ask if he went. Yes, he did, says Tim Cheetah. And Wright is out and not happy. 3 up, 3 down inning for Kim, the first one of the ball game. He has 5 strikeouts now. 5-1, Mets lead the Marlins. Fox Saturday Baseball is sponsored by Chevy, an American Revolution. And our aerial coverage today provided to you by Goodyear. When the road throws you a curve, get there on Goodyear Innovation. Beautiful pictures of Miami, South Beach, and what started out as a humid, warm afternoon in a cloudless sky. The clouds have started to roll in now. That is mishandled by David Wright on a fair ball, and the Marlins will put their leadoff man on. That'll be an infield hit for Todd Linden.
Not only was the ball slowly hit, but to the right of David Wright. Not only those two things, but the short hop. And Wright couldn't come up with it, and even had David fielded the ball, it's doubtful that he would have thrown Linden out. That's why it was a hit. But Perez, very impressive through the first 4 innings. He's on the right side of the plate. I mean that literally. We talked earlier that the pitch is up and away to right-handed batters, not where he wants to be. That's a no-no. But right there is where he wants to be, and that's where all the strikeouts have come from. Right in that area, down and in, right at the knees to right-handed batters. That means he's finishing his pitches. He gets it in that area right there. He can have a bit of a lazy arm, and that's why that ball stays up and away to right-handers, but it has not today.
Well, he asked his catcher, Ramon Castro, early if he had finish on his pitches.
Yeah, right.
The fastball was getting through the hitting zone, and as every good catcher will do, he'll say absolutely.
Well, that's the one thing you're an expert on when you're behind the plate, is how the pitch is coming home, whether it's got action in it, late action. You can feel it in your hand. You can watch the hitters. Another indicator, when a hitter, like a good right-handed fastball hitter, anticipates a fastball and keeps fouling it back the other way, that means there's late action on it.
And more than twice as many strikes from Perez. Gave up a run in the 4th. Leadoff double by Ugla. Ugla with some good base running that put the Mets in a position to give up the run. Ugla tagged and went to 3rd on a fly ball to left field, and then scored on a sacrifice fly. On the ground, chance for 2, right to Castillo, and the throw is in time. Castillo turns it up with Linden bearing down on him at second base.
Nicely done. Wright with a good throw to Castillo, and Luis with a gutty pivot at second base. Watch Linden go in hard. Castillo holding his ground. Good strong throw for the double play.
So the Mets go around the horn. David Wright to Castillo to Delgado, and 2 quick outs with 1 swing of the bat. And now Perez facing the 8th place hitter in Brett Carroll. So a chance to get an out. And then we'll see what Freddie Gonzalez does with the 9th spot in that order. Byung-Hyun Kim's spot is due up next, and unlikely he would hit. Nice play, Wright. Throws up the line, and Delgado did not get the tag on him.
Crew chief, first base umpire Tim Chichita said that Delgado did not make the tag. Very fine play by David Wright. Now the strong throw toward the first base side. Looked like he tagged him. I don't know.
Well, Delgado's saying he got him on the elbow. What do you think?
Yeah, he did.
There's a good look at it right there. But Tim Cheetah didn't see it that way. Palms down, and the Marlins have a base runner with 2 outs in the 5th.
Sometimes the first baseman's blocked out of the play, and I think that was the case right here. Cheetah understandably on the other side and really can't see that Delgado made the tag right on the wrist, the right wrist of Brett Carroll.
Reggie Abercrombie is in the game for Kim, pinch hitting here in the 5th inning. So the Marlins starter is out after surrendering 5 runs to the Mets, 4 of them earned in 5 innings. Mets had that run of games last week where they committed 10 errors in a 2-game span. It's been the Marlins that have been shaky defensively in this series. 14 first pitch strikes from Perez. And down goes Abercrombie.
The right side of the plate.
Carved him up, and Perez now with 6 strikeouts. The Mets lead the Marlins 5-1 as we head to the 6th in Miami. Fox Saturday Baseball is sponsored by Avodart. By the auto parts experts at AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. And by State Farm, proud sponsor of Major League Baseball. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Byung-Hyun Kim is out after being pinch hit for in the bottom of the 5th. And Tim, the new pitcher, is Logan Kinsing. Line shot by Beltran, wasting no time. And Beltran with his first hit of the ball game, 2nd time he's been on, and the Brewers have a lead base runner here in the 6th.
And it's not the first time that Beltran has faced Kinsing. Kinsing with 37 appearances for the Marlins last year. Then he underwent Tommy John surgery that has come so routine with young pitchers now, young and old. But Beltran greeting him rather rudely. First pitch, hammered to center.
So the Mets with the lead man on for Moises Alou. Alou is 0 for 2 and still sitting on that 25-game hit streak. That one is drilled into right center. Long run for Hermida, and it's Hermida who will make the catch for the out. Right now, here's Jeannie Zalasko with a game break.
We are going to Atlanta. John Smoltz taking a no-hitter into the 6th with 2 out. J.J. Hardy broke it up and broke it open. A 2-run home run, his 26th of the season. Hardy ties the ball game 2 apiece, bottom 6.
So J.J. Hardy with 26 home runs now from the shortstop position.
Hanging slider from Smoltz.
Hardy, one of the few choices for comeback player of the year, perhaps, after missing most of last year with an ankle injury. The Brewers have now hit 217 home runs as a team this year.
Wow.
Which breaks the franchise record set by a team they're being compared to, Harvey's Wallbangers, back in '82.
Or the '61 Yankees had 221 home runs that year. Maris with the 61, Mantle with 54.
Now on the Fox pregame, Eric Carroll's calling for J.J. Hardy to deliver more at the plate, and he responds in Atlanta. Carlos Delgado with 1 man out and a runner at first, and Beltran pretty much station to station in this game after the knee injury last night. I think Willie Randolph just happy he can find his way in the lineup once again.
Mets are looking to build up a lead to where they won't have to use Billy Wagner in the 9th inning. They build up a 6-7 run lead. It's very, very important for this team right now because you don't want a save situation going into the 9th.
That could answer a lot of questions for Willie Randolph at the end of the ball game. And if there's a ball club that could use a stress-free afternoon at the ballpark, it's the Mets.
Yeah.
A 9-6 win last night. They belted out 13 hits last night. But Florida was 6 errors, and then there was a 2-hour, 20-minute rain delay in the middle of all that.
Last night, Scott Schoenweiss with his first save of the year. Philadelphia Phillies watching every minute of this game from their RFK conclave in Washington.
That's a good way to put that. New stadium next year.
Yes.
In D.C.
Right.
And it'll be a beauty. Delgado 10 straight years of 30+ home runs. He's driven in over 100 in 8 of his last 9 years. He's going to have to hustle to get to 30 this year. He's at 23 right now. Hit his 23rd last night in his first game back after missing some time, a couple of weeks with a hip flexor. He's hit 40 home runs or more 3 times in his career and driven in over 135 3 times as well. Beltran stays put at first. 1 out for the Mets here in the 6th. They lead it 5-1. Off the end of the bat. Easy play for Carroll. And 2 gone. 5 all outs for Logan Kensing here in the 6th inning. So Sean Green with 2 outs and a runner at first still, and Beltran. Green struck out first time up. He was hit by a pitch and scored a run on that 3-run home run by Castro, who is on deck. You're talking about Logan Kensing coming back from Tommy John surgery. He had that procedure done August 31st of last year. He's trying to come back in a calendar year, which you're seeing a couple of guys do that. Brandon Backey is making the same kind of comeback, and that was unheard of just a few years ago.
Yeah. Of course, 30 years ago, the Tommy John surgery was unheard of. And as one would think, the rehab from the surgery took much longer 30 years ago than it has over the last decade.
There's a hot shot, base hit for Sean Green. And the Mets drumming up another rally here with 2 outs. And that'll get Ramon Castro an at-bat here in the 6th inning.
Big swing and the 3-run home run. We talked about it earlier. The way that Kim got to 2 strikes was on that slider, low and away, right there. And then he tried to come back with it, but he left it in the middle of the plate. Castro parks it into the empty left field stands. Football seats. He has gotten a ton of big hits for the Mets this year.
Home run number 10 for Castro, now has 30 RBIs. Plays in about a third of the games for New York. Castro making only his 33rd start of the year. Tough to find a good backup catcher, especially one who can come in there and provide a good punch. And
that is really true.
Showed you the numbers with runners in scoring position. He is now hitting over 300. First start since the 12th of August, as LaDuca caught 14 straight days. LaDuca says he wants to be back in there tomorrow. Needed 1 day off. Told Willie to give him a day, and then I'll be there the rest of the way. 2 on for the Mets with 2 outs here in the 6th. Perez would be next. And the Mets would just as soon he hit in this inning and not lead off next inning. He's got the kind of stuff that he could stay a while. Well, does Castro have the green light? 3-0 with a pitcher on deck. takes ball 4. And the Mets have the bases loaded here in the 6th inning as Kensing gives up 2 hits and a walk. And Willie Randolph has made his choice. It'll be Perez to hit.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking, all you fans at home. Why not pinch hit for Perez right here? I think you determine how well a guy's pitched up to this point, and that's what determines whether you pinch hit for him or not. Perez is just too valuable on the mound. Forget what he's going to do at the plate. He has still got great stuff and should be strong enough to go through another 9 hitters or the lineup one more time.
And the Mets in their beleaguered bullpen could use a starter to go deep into a ball game.
Right.
Bases loaded for Perez, trying to help his cause. Flares one foul into the Mets bullpen. Beltran at third started it with a single on the first pitch from Kensing. Sean Green had a 2-out hit. And then Castro walked. 5-1 New York. They got 2 in the first and then 3 in the 4th on the Castro home run. Perez with only 1 run batted in this year. He has 8 hits this season. The 1-2 and a swing and a miss. So Perez is down the Mets strand 3, but Perez back on the mound where he's doing his best work. Hanley Ramirez will lead off. He's making a run at a batting title. Now the Marlins coming to bat here in the 6th inning, top of the order, and the Avidart in-game box score. Florida with the 1 run, a sacrifice fly and an RBI from Miguel Cabrera as they trail the New York Mets by a 5-1 score. Byung-Hyun Kim started this game for Florida, only gave up 3 hits, but one of those a 3-run home run to Ramon Castro. Kim giving up 5 runs and 4 earned runs. And the Mets relying heavily on the left arm of Oliver Perez. He faces Hanley Ramirez to start this 6th inning. Ramirez is 0 for 2. Entered the day 3rd in the batting race. Some high averages in the National League this year. Chipper Jones, Matt Hollidays putting up a big year. Edgar Renteria as well with the Braves. Braves have 2 players with a chance at a batting title. And Ramirez gets jammed, and that one is going to fall safely. That Mets outfield in left field and center not running well. And Ramirez dumps one in for a hit.
Yeah, you've got Moises Alou with the bad quad. We saw the collision with the wall last night of Beltran, who had an ailing left leg anyway. And then in right field, Sean Green was hit by a Kim fastball earlier. So all 3 outfielders really is slow of foot right now.
Well, the Marlins will try to take advantage. We'll see if Ramirez is on the move. It's 5-1, but Ramirez has stolen 50 bases this year. Leadoff hit for the Marlins with Dan Uggla at the plate. Uggla doubled his last time up and is now just 1 double shy of the National League lead. And there's Matt Holliday again. He's showing up in just about every
he does,
major column.
Speaking of MVPs, we were talking about that earlier. Rockies, by the way, have won 6 in a row. Recently sweeping the Dodgers, who have fallen precipitously.
Rockies' best chance at the postseason through the wild card. 5 back of Arizona in the National League West. Colorado looking for their first season over 500 under Clint Hurdle. And a talented young team there in Colorado. You got a feeling they're going to be good for a while.
Yeah.
There you see the Rockies 5 games back at San Diego tonight. Not an easy place to play. Ugla lines one to center field, and Beltran is there. So Perez gets the first out here in the 6th inning. And now it's Jeremy Hermida with a runner at first. Hermida going after that first pitch. Looks like the Marlins a lot more aggressive last few times through against Perez.
Perez still throwing the ball very well. Those foul balls going off the other way from right-handed and left-handed hitters. Still a good sign that he's got good stuff.
That one is a mile high, but it's David Wright who hauls it in for the 2nd out of the inning. So after the leadoff single by Ramirez, Oliver Perez with back-to-back outs against Hermida and Ugla. And now Miguel Cabrera. Cabrera is 0 for 1. He struck out looking against Perez in the 2nd, but had that sacrifice fly. Driving in the only Marlins run so far. An RBI machine he has become. Now 112 runs batted in for Cabrera. Started the day 5th in the league in RBIs. He won the arbitration lottery last year. $7 million payday. Putting up those big numbers. That's a fair ball. Wright makes the play, and the throw is in time to get Cabrera. A long throw across the diamond. Terrific play by Wright. And the side retired. Perez puts another 0 on the board. We'll be back right after these messages from your local Fox station. Top of the Mets order: Jose Reyes, Luis Castillo, and David Wright. First 3 up against Logan Kinsing, with the Mets leading 5-1. Terrific play by David Wright to end that last inning. And Miguel Cabrera, who did not get down the line well, is showing some effects. He's limping and clutching at that right leg over at third base, but still in the game.
Here's that play one more time. It ends the 6th inning. David Wright intentionally throwing the ball low, cuts down on the trajectory, and a one-hopper gets Cabrera. Might have been that last lunge, perhaps a groin pull or a hamstring pull, but a good play by David Wright.
Boy, it's that time of year. All those little injuries start to creep up on these players.
If you're the Mets, you hope those aches and pains last until November 1st. That is when Game 7 of the World Series will be played for the first time, scheduled in November. Of course, 2001, it ended in November, but it wasn't scheduled to end in November, as baseball took a hiatus for a week after 9/11.
And it is still up for grabs with just a little over a week to play on who's going to be in the postseason. Who's going to get that chance at a World Series. Reyes skies one to center field. Brett Carroll hauls it in for the out. First out of the inning. Well, tomorrow the NFL on Fox regular season continues with an exciting doubleheader. First, the Lions look to continue their undefeated start as they take on the winless Eagles, and then the Giants look for their first win as they take on the Redskins. A showdown between NFC East rivals on Fox. And there you see it, Giants and the Redskins, 4:15 Eastern. Major League Baseball baseball today and NFL tomorrow. Great time of year to be a sports fan right now.
Really is.
Luis Castillo with one man out here in the 7th. Tim, if you look at the National League standings, there's a really good opportunity this year, and some things have to go the right way. But every team could win at least 70 games, and every National League team could lose at least 70 games. So we're talking about a 22-game span that makes or breaks your postseason. Even the Florida Marlins, who have the worst record in the National League, they're tied with Houston. They've won 66 games, so they're 4 wins shy of 70. But Selig pushing competitive balance, and it's about as balanced as it has ever been this year.
I don't know that that bodes well for the National League in the postseason. Because while parity has perhaps been seen in the National League, in the American League, there are teams that are, without a doubt, better than the teams in the National League. American League by far. Seems like that gap keeps widening and widening. You know it's cyclical.
Good play by Jacobs, and they get the out. Kinsing right there for him. Castillo gunned down, 2 up, 2 down. They're in the 7th inning.
Very, very good play on the in-between hop by Jacobs. Turns and throws to Kinsing covering. Nice play.
So David Wright with 2 outs. Wright with an RBI in the 1st inning, drove in his 104th run batting in. Over 300, over 30 homers, and over 100 RBIs. And he looks like he's going to be that kind of player perennially. He's made some nice plays defensively as well in this game. How do you think he'll evolve defensively at third as the years go by?
Well, I think his involvement will come as an all-around player. I mean, he's got good speed. He's got great power. Strong arm. Good hands. Got all the things that are required to play third base in New York City for a long time. Plus, he has leadership skills. A lot of people think he's the unnamed captain of the Mets right now. He probably is. One thing David Wright can't allow to happen is what's happened to Miguel Cabrera, and that's getting thick around the middle. You mentioned Cabrera earlier. I mean, if in 2 years when Cabrera goes on the free agent list, you've got to really think long and hard about, even though his numbers are great when he's younger, you got to think about what he's going to be like when he's older, because he does have a tendency to be too thick in the middle. And he's got to really work on that, but so far that has not happened to David Wright. But you compare the two, I mean, Cabrera is nowhere near the shape that David Wright's in right now. And that's going to hurt him when it comes time for free agency.
And both 24 years of age.
Yep.
And you look at Cabrera when he first came to the big leagues as a 20-year-old, and he looks a lot different now than he did back then in that World Series run.
He really does, and that's not a good sign because, as you said, he's only 24 years old. Gained that much weight in a very short period of time could be a bad omen for Miguel. Now, you can stop that if you know, obviously, if you take care of yourself, drop the weight, and become the force that you were when you first came in the league.
Wright takes off. Beltran takes the pitch, and David Wright has his 2nd stolen base of the ball game. That gives him 33 for the year, and the Mets get a man in scoring position.
Another good jump, good throw by Trainer. Can't throw those guys out when they have the good jump.
So now a base hit, and the Mets will get their run back. Beltran will be walked now. Moises Alou would be the next hitter. And Freddie Gonzalez going with a matchup. That one leaked back out over the plate. So Beltran, the intentional walk, third time he's been on base. And Freddie Gonzalez will go with a matchup of Kinsing against Moises Alou. Taking the walk to first, literally. And now time for our game summary, brought to you by Flomax. Ramon Castro, the big shot in this game, a 3-run homer in the 4th inning. David Wright has a couple of hits, 2 stolen bases. He's driven in a run, and Oliver Perez has been outstanding on the mound for the New York Mets. That was the shot from Castro that gave the Mets a 5-run lead at the time. Took it from a 2-0 ball game to a 5-0 game. Castro filling in for Paul LaDuca, connecting for his 10th home run, and now has driven in 30 for the year. After a quick visit, Logan Kinsing against Moises Alou. Always ready to swing as soon as he steps in the box. First and second for the Mets with 2 gone.
That's what you do to a first ball fastball hitter, is throw him a breaking ball on the first pitch. Doesn't mean you have to throw a ball, but just don't throw him the fastball. But you're right. I mean, Moises Alou, one of the most notorious first ball fastball hitters in baseball, and always has been.
And that hits him. So Alou is hit by a pitch and is hitless this afternoon, sitting on that 25-game hit streak. We'll see if he gets another at bat, but that's going to load the bases for New York, for Delgado.
And Alou, Moises taking his time going down to first base and kind of peering over that one shoulder at Kinsing, but no way is Kinsing trying to hit Alou in that situation. No chance.
Freddie Gonzalez on his way to the mound, and with the left-hander Delgado coming up, he'll bring on his lefty to match up. Mets threatening in the 7th. Freddie Gonzalez goes with the left-hander Taylor Tankersley as Delgado is coming up. The Mets have the bases loaded with 2 men out here in the 7th inning. Tankersley picked up the win in the Marlins victory on Thursday in 10 innings. He is in a big spot right here with one of the premier power bats in the National League at the plate and a lot of men on base. The Mets have not hit a grand slam all season. Brewers lead the National League with 8. Wright, Beltran, and Alou. Beltran and Alou not running well. Tankersley asking where that pitch was.
Free swing for Delgado. That 1-0 breaking ball looked to me like it was low. Huh? Could have been a strike. Didn't get the call.
And a big cut, but fouls it straight back, and it's 2-1. Delgado trying to make things a lot easier on his skipper, Willie Randolph. 5-1 Mets lead it, and a chance to break this one open here in the 7th inning, perhaps. A swing and a miss. That breaking ball from Tankersley.
Yeah, that crossed everybody up. After the 2-0 fastball, he came back with the 2-1 breaking ball.
And what does he have in mind for Delgado here? 23 home runs this year. Hit one last night and has returned to the lineup. Bases loaded. The 2-2 lays off. All of this with 2 outs. David Wright singled, stole second. Beltran was intentionally walked, and Alou hit by a pitch. And Tankersley on to face the left-hander Carlos Delgado. 0 for 3 today with a strikeout. Some "Let's Go Mets" chants mixed in here at Dolphin Stadium. They're on their feet. I'm not sure who they're cheering for, though. A lot of Mets fans watching this one and ready for action. Runners go, ball 4. Mets going to run the easy way. A bases loaded walk, and it's 6-1 New York. As Delgado picks up the RBI. Bases still loaded with Shawn Green coming up.
Now, falling behind from the get-go was Tankersley, brought in to pitch to Delgado as he misses with the fastball. Then the breaking ball is the strike. So with the count 2-2, the breaking ball misses. He comes back with a fastball and loses Delgado.
And now Tankersley, another lefty in Shawn Green. Green's been on twice. He singled last time up, was hit by a pitch, and scored a run in the 4th. Tankersley having a tough time throwing strikes. Tankersley spent the first half of the year in the minor leagues. He was in AAA. Was back in the big leagues on the 14th of July. And now that late left-handed situational man for Freddie Gonzalez here in the final few weeks of the season. He's let one lefty get away. Now Green with the bases still loaded, still 2 outs.
Yankees have gone back in front of Toronto 9-8 in the 7th inning. Milwaukee still tied with Atlanta 2-2 in the 8th.
Another hitter's count for Shawn Green as Tankersley is in danger of a big one here. Beltran at third with Alou at second and Delgado at first. Action pitch for Taylor Tankersley. The 2-1. Tried that curveball and now in a deep hole at 3 balls and a strike on Shawn Green. Green, a 2-time All-Star. That's his 4th organization and could possibly be his last year in a Mets uniform.
And it probably will be. I think that's a foregone conclusion. If the Mets have not exercised that $2 million buyout right already, then they are thinking about it. This is the last year in the Met uniform.
Freddie Gonzalez with action in his bullpen. Wolf would face Castro if he comes up. Full count to Sean Green with the bases full of Mets. Runners go. Green drives one to center. Coming in, he's Carroll, and he makes the catch for the out. Tankersley gives up a run on a bases-loaded walk. The Mets lead it 6-1. Could have been a whole lot worse. We head to the bottom of the 7th. Fox Saturday Baseball is sponsored by DirecTV. For the most sports in HD, you've got to get DirecTV. By TGI Fridays Restaurants, where the 3-course menu is back. Give me more Fridays. And by Miller High Life, good honest beer at a tasty price. Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. When the road throws you a curve, get there on Goodyear Innovation. And some threatening skies up above. The Mets threatening in the last inning, but only coming up with the 1 run. They get the run back they allowed in the 4th. And again, a 5-run lead. And Oliver Perez, with a bullpen saving performance here today for Willie Randolph, starts his 7th inning against Mike Jacobs. Perez's longest outing of the year was against the Brewers in May when he went 8 1/3. Opened the day in the top 10 in wins and strikeouts. He's 8th in the league in earned run average. Unfortunately, in the top 10 in walks as well, but he has kept his walks to a minimum here this afternoon. Jacobs goes through. Castro's got to find it, and he will secure the out at first for the strikeout. Number 7 for Oliver Perez. Pepsi, the official soft drink of MLB, proud to present the Pepsi Clutch Performer of the game. No question it is Oliver Perez here this afternoon. 7 strikeouts. He's still well under the 90 pitch limit right now. Has only given up 4 Marlins hits and gets Jacobs on a nasty breaking ball.
And the only strikeout that was on that inside fastball was to Mike Jacobs his first time up. So Perez is really locked in this afternoon.
Chasing out of the zone, Linden puts himself in an even count, 1-1. No walks for Oliver Perez. There's the key stat on his line here this afternoon.
Yeah, first pitch strikes and no walks. Funny how the two go together.
Had a 6-walk game his last time out. Did not get through the 5th inning against the Phillies. A tough ball game for Perez. Expected more out of himself against Philadelphia in that key matchup between the 2 division leaders at the time. But he is responding in a big way and trying to win his 3rd game of the month of September and trying to go to 15-9 for the season. One thing we haven't seen from Oliver Perez today, he's usually very demonstrative on the mound. I mean, he's not Carlos Zambrano, but he's got a little bit of that in him. He's relatively stoic out there on the mound, and he picks up another strikeout. A backwards K for his 8th punch out of the ballgame.
Yeah, that slider stayed outside, actually over the middle of the plate. Right-handed batters anticipate that pitch going down and in. Stayed in the middle. 8 strikeouts now for Perez.
Season high is 10. He's done it twice this year. Actually had an 11 strikeout performance against Milwaukee in August.
Here's a guy, Brian, coming into the game who had given up more unearned runs than any other pitcher in the major leagues. 19 unearned runs given up. None today.
What's that tell you about a pitcher?
You know, I don't know really what that tells me. A guy like Perez, when he's on, he's throwing right-handed hitters a lot of inside strikes, and working the inside part of the plate. So if they put it in play, they're going to put it in play on the left side of the diamond. And Reyes and Wright have been superb all year long as defenders. So I'm not sure. It's an odd statistic for a pitcher of Perez's caliber. 19 unearned runs, the most in the majors. So here I am, I bring the stat up and I'm trying to paint a picture with it, and I can't explain it.
I think defenders hope that their pitcher will bear down after they make an error.
Yeah.
And today Perez did that. The only error the Mets made was in the 5th inning when Wright had the throwing error, but Perez came back and got a strikeout against the pinch hitter. So there's a case where your pitcher picks up your defense. But maybe a lot of unearned runs means he's not picking up the defense as he should. But he is today. I like your stat. Lazy fly ball, well positioned out there, Sean Green. And a 3-up, 3-down inning. Now time for the DirecTV game break. Let's go back to Jeannie, Kevin, and Eric in the Fox Network Center.
Welcome to that DirecTV game break, sponsored by DirecTV. For the most sports in HD, you've got to get DirecTV. That would be Kevin. This would be Eric. I am Jeannie, and we're going to try to answer some postseason questions for you, like will the Cubs' power-packed offense live up to the hype?
Well, it showed up yesterday. 4 big home runs. And I'll tell you what, that was not the real surprise, because you know what? They come back today. 4 more home runs in September, up to September, 106 home runs. Just this month, 36. Alfonso Soriano, 12. Aramis Ramirez, 8. Go Cubbies!
Oh, goodness gracious.
What will the Yankees rotation look like?
Well, they might be interested because it could match up with the Angels and the Yankees, but the Yankees got to win first. Philip Hughes pitched pretty well, 5 innings, gave up a couple blue hits. Has pitched well in September, and A-Rod coming back today. Hit 179 his previous 10 games, only 3 RBIs, had a double.
Meaningful hit there, bases
Meaningful
loaded,
hit,
2
yes.
outs.
Another base hit right here,
Another
3 RBIs for A-Rod.
hit.
But the Yankees are in trouble. Farnsworth is out there right now. Not good.
Enough said. This has been the DirecTV game break.
Next week, MLB's playoff race heats up on Fox Saturday Baseball as the Cubs battle the Reds. The Nats take on the Phillies, or the Padres square off against the Brewers. Starts at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. And all games will matter. Meaningful September baseball, even here in Miami this time of year. And the Cubs come to town next after the Mets, so the Marlins will have plenty to say for the divisional races coming down the stretch. Ramon Castro leads off for New York. He had the big shot in the 4th, a 3-run homer that extended the Mets lead to 5-0. Balls of a strike. Ross Wolf in the game for the Marlins. Third pitcher used by Freddie Gonzalez. Kim went 5 innings, gave up only 3 hits on 4 earned runs. And then Logan Kinsing with 2 innings and 1 earned run allowed. And now it's Ross Wolf, and that one's in the alley in right center, and that will drop for a base hit. Hermida cuts it off. And how about Ramon Castro delivering with his 2nd hit and the 3rd time he's been on. Well, the Mets are going to be without Lasting Smilage for 3 days, suspended for 3 games and fined an undisclosed amount for inappropriate actions during Thursday night's game. That was Jim Joyce who threw him out. And a developing trend with arguments against umpires. A number of guys getting the 2- and 3-game suspensions this season under Bob Watson.
I think, Brian, it's the prolonged arguments that seem to be endemic here in September by young players too, and that's why I think Bob Watson's trying to come down as hard as he can on the younger players in hopes of squelching that and not allowing it to go on when they get older, and thinking they can get away with things that they shouldn't get away with.
So Millage has dropped his appeal, and he'll start serving today. Perez drops the bunt down. That's able to get the pitcher to move a runner to second base. That tells you Perez is coming back out for the 8th. Does a nice job there to get Castro into scoring position, and now back to the top of the order. Jose Reyes 1 for 4 this afternoon. He started the game with a double, kind of set the tone for the Mets right off the bat. Double down the right field line. He scored on a David Wright single, and before you knew it, the Mets had a quick strike here in Game 3 of this series. Two outs. Let's check in with Jeannie for a game break.
And we're going to New York, Yankee Stadium, top 8. Kyle Farnsworth letting one get away first to Alex Rios. And then the bleeding would continue as Zahn picks up a bat and takes care of Farnsworth's offering. Toronto taking the lead. And they're out in front 10-9, top 8.
One of the more mysterious pitchers in the major leagues, in my view, Kyle Farnsworth. A guy, when you see him throw, upper 90s fastball, wicked slider, wicked splitter, and has trouble getting guys out. I mean, there were pitchers get in line to hit it to have his type stuff, and not a lot of hitters would get in line to hit against him. And yet, the problems continue.
Had his trouble in Chicago, and now more trouble in 07. Six-1 Mets here in Miami. 2 men are out, and Luis Castillo at the plate with Castro over at third base. Castillo looking for his first hit. He's been on base. He walked in the 3rd inning, but otherwise 0 for 3. Mets are putting together a balanced ball game today. They have the one blemish, the error by Wright, but it did not lead to a run. They're getting the timely hits. They're manufacturing runs. They've hit the long ball today. And of course, Oliver Perez is spinning a beauty on the mound.
So one thing that starting pitching does, it just buoys everything. He has just been terrific this afternoon.
8 strikeouts, no walks, and will be pitching in the 8th. Well, maybe Oliver Perez evolving into a late season, postseason type pitcher. Had very good success last year in the NLCS in his 2 starts against the Cardinals. Picked up 1 win in that NLCS and is making a bid for his 3rd win this year in September. He looks pretty stressed out. I think Castillo just up there trying to keep the pitched ball off of his feet and knees. He's had a rough day up there.
He has.
And some wounded wheels to start with.
What price glory.
Ball and 2 strikes on Luis Castillo. 2-2. Mets will send up John Maine tomorrow. Mets trying to get John Maine back to his winning ways. He and Perez tied for the club high right now with 14 wins. Going to be a tough play as Ramirez wisely eats it, and Castro scores the run. So the Mets get another one. They tack one on to take a 6-run lead. It's 7-1. Castillo with an RBI.
And Ramirez evidently didn't have a hold of the ball. Castillo on those broken tires getting down to first base. in fine fashion. Did not appear that Ramirez had a hold of the ball. Otherwise, he takes a shot. Castillo in a lot of pain, but that makes it feel better, those infield hits.
Castillo with his 150th infield hit. That's 5th best in the league. As David Wright is at the plate with so much speed at the top of the order. And although Castillo's not running at his best right now, he's still that presence and that threat. Wright drives one down the right field line. That will slice foul and out of play.
I'll tell you, the caliber of the games that the Mets have played over the last 10 days have been horrible. If they don't play well, then the opposition plays poorly. Or I should say, if they don't play poorly, the opposition plays poorly. There's been some really lopsided games that the Mets have played. And there's, regardless of what happens, there's got to be obvious concern that the Mets aren't as strong going into the playoffs this year as they were last year. Last year they won in a walk.
Base hit to right. David Wright has a 3-hit ball game. And here come the Mets once again with 2 outs. Brewers and the Braves are in the 10th inning. Still tied at 2. Braves hanging on by a thread. Not mathematically eliminated. Phillies a little bit later, about a half hour from their start against the Washington Nationals.
To expand on that point, Brian, I think if you're the Chicago Cubs and Milwaukee Brewers, you say all we want is to get in. If you're the New York Yankees, of course the Yankees have played so well, but they were 14.5 back on May 29th. So they're thinking is all we want is a chance to get in. If you're the Mets, you don't say, I mean, you don't have that team feeling that all we need is a chance to get in, because you expected to get in because of last year, because of the talent they have, because of what team Omar Minaya has. So limping into the playoffs really is not good enough for this team. So whether they limp into the playoffs or go in with, it's a very, very important in my view that they have a good, strong 8 days. But the Phillies have put them in a position to where even they're like the Cubs or the Brewers or the Yankees.
Well, the Mets clinched it last year on the 18th of September. They won it by 12 games in the National League East and a roster full of all-stars. Now with experience, postseason experience, they went through the first round. They swept right through the first round and then ran into the Cardinals in the championship series. Cardinals with those 83 wins go on to win the World Series with the 13th best record in the National League. So it's not a given when you go to the postseason. But the Mets certainly hoping they're going to be clicking when they get there, if they get there, and they have their final 7 days at Shea Stadium to try to get the ship turned around.
Right, because if the season was over tomorrow, they would not feel like they were clicking going into the postseason.
Carlos Beltran with 2 men on, and again 2 outs. Castro hit the 3-run homer in the 4th with 2 outs. And it's Beltran waving right through it. Full count. No team has been up 7 with 17 to play in the history of the game like the Mets were just 8 days ago. Called strike 3 on the inside corner. Jim Wolf rings up Beltran. 3 hits for the Mets. They had a run, and they now lead it 7-1. Perez coming back on the hill. Fox Saturday Baseball is sponsored by Flomax, by Sharp OSA Technology, work without limits, and by Degree Men, more power than you need. One day you'll need it. Dolphin Stadium in Miami, and the home of the Marlins and the home of the Dolphins as well. That's why they call it Dolphin Stadium. And a lot of empty seats, but a very important ball game for the New York Mets, and Perez is giving Willie Randolph a huge start this afternoon. Ed Carroll drives one into left. Alou came in, now going back, and will play it off the wall. Misplays it. Andy Chavez just into the game in center. There to back him up. And Carroll starts it with a leadoff double here in the 8th inning. Chavez is in for Carlos Beltran.
That ball did hit the wall. It's a fastball from Perez. But Moises Alou did not see that ball immediately. I remember a game about a decade ago when the Mets acquired Ryan Thompson from the Toronto Blue Jays, actually closer to 15 years ago. And he had a game, one of those nightmarish games about this time, a late starting time because of the heat. And he lost 4 balls in right field at about this time. So it's a lot tougher to see right now.
Albert Andino pinch hitting. Little flare in the shallow center. And it's Chavez with fresh legs who runs it down. I'm not sure Beltran makes that play. 1 out here in the 8th inning. There's the haze before sunset here in Miami. Moises Alou should know that left field wall. He was part of that '97 championship team playing here in Florida. Heilman gets loose. Willie Randolph hoping that Perez can get through this 8th. Top of the order now. Hanley Ramirez has a hit in this game. He singled last time up. He's 1 for 3. Not wasting any time against Perez. Aside from the big average, Ramirez also scoring a lot of runs here in Florida. Second in the league with 117 runs as Randolph talks it over with his pitching coach.
Hanley Ramirez entered the game with a .334 batting average. That's the highest average by a National League shortstop since 1940. 67 years. He's down, it's about .333 right now, but if he can keep up above .334, it will be the highest average for a National League shortstop in 67 years. That's strong.
Hot shot, but right at Reyes. And he'll make the play for the out. Time now to hear from Jeannie. A game break from Atlanta.
Well, in Atlanta, the Brewers started the day knowing the Cubs already won. They broke up the John Smoltz no-hitter with J.J. Hardy home run in the 6th. And here, Corey Hart sent one out, top of the 10th, giving Milwaukee the 3-2 lead.
Corey Hart having a great year. And at one point this year was in a platoon situation in the outfield, and all of a sudden he's been in there every day. And when Ned Yost moved him into the 5-hole behind Fielder, he started to come alive, and now he's got a 20-20 season, over 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases. Many feel he'll be a 30-30 guy next year if he can stay healthy. It's a big home run for the Brewers, who just won't go away as the Cubs continue to win. They've won 8 out of 10. Cubs won earlier today. And here are the Brewers with a matchup against Tim Hudson yesterday and John Smoltz today. Down a game and a half trying to keep pace with the Cubs.
Hudson dealing last night, too. Shutout going into the 8th inning.
Big hop bounces over Reyes. Alou bobbles out in left, and now the Marlins will send the run home. Alou's throw went to second. So Carroll just decided to come on in to score the second run.
Stop and go by third base coach Bo Porter. And you're trailing by 6. You can't take a chance. But because of the bobble, stop and go.
No RBI for Dan Uggla. That'll be an error on Alou. Second run for the Marlins. 7-2 New York. And it's Peterson who makes a visit to To talk it over, maybe give Perez a little breather here.
Well, a twofold visit. I think to give Baumann a chance to warm up. And with Cabrera coming up next with 2 outs, I think this will be the last hitter for Perez on the afternoon, regardless of what happens. If he retires him, you have Baumann start the 9th. And if he gets a hit, then you bring in Baumann to pitch to Cabrera.
Well, next week, MLB's playoff race heats up on Fox Saturday Baseball. Cubs and Reds, Nats and Phillies, or Padres, Brewers. Every game having playoff implications. Starts at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. Check local listings for games and start times in your area. Hermida going after the first pitch. Lines one, right two, Sean Green. And Oliver Perez gives Willie Randolph 8 strong innings. A couple of runs in. The Mets lead it by 5. Moise Alou will lead off, and he is hitless this afternoon. He is 0 for 3 at the plate, been hit by a pitch. But this detail of the game brought to you by Sharp Aquas, official HD TV of Major League Baseball. And Alou last night extending his hit streak to 25 games with a single to center field, just one off the Mets franchise record held by David Wright. And he's got one more chance to do it here in the Met 9th inning. And he does it right on cue. 26 in a row for the 41-year-old Moise Alou.
And you might know it would be on a first pitch fastball. Fastball right down the pipe. Hammered to left by Alou.
And will be lifted for a pinch runner. So Moise Alou, 26 games in a row, and he'll have a chance tomorrow to break Wright's record. Wright did it over 2 seasons, the end of 06 and the beginning of 07. So he has the longest single season hit streak in Mets history. Are you surprised there's not somebody in Mets franchise history with a longer one?
No, I'm not, because as you look at the pinch runner there, the reason for that is the Mets have always built their franchise around pitching. You had Seaver and Kuzma and Ryan early. Mets never went after offense the first 3 decades of the franchise. Of course, when Darryl Strawberry started coming in, then you had Keith Hernandez and the great teams of the middle 80s that a lot of people, me included, thought should have won more but didn't. That 1988 loss to the Dodgers. But that's really the only identifiable team in Mets history where you could really point to it and say, well, that was a great offensive team. But prior to that, prior to 85, the Mets won on pitching and pitching alone.
Good look at Marcos Carvajal, who was in the game for the Marlins, to try to finish it up for Freddy Gonzalez. Gomez takes off, and Delgado skies one that is out of play a few rows up. I think everybody anxious to see what the new ballpark in Flushing will be like. Anytime you open a stadium, you never really know how it's going to play. Citi Field opening in 2009. And then just beyond the outfield wall of Shea Stadium. Looks like a beautiful ballpark. New ballpark opening up next year in D.C. The new home of the Nationals. Stan Kasten saying they're hoping to make a big splash this offseason with their new park and some energy going into You
mean a splash talent-wise? I mean, what can the Nationals do? I mean, they've got too many pieces of that puzzle to fit. I mean, they've got Ryan Zimmerman at third base, Chad Cardero, terrific closer. Dimitri Young's having a good year. I mean, you'd almost have to overhaul the franchise to get any kind of contender into the nation's capital in such a short period of time.
Nationals hoping a new ballpark will infuse some revenue that will give them a chance to make some off-season plays for free agents. Eddie Acta, the skipper in Washington, another Bobby Cox protege. Marcus Carvajal facing Delgado. With a man at first, that's Gomez pinch running for Alou, who just extended his hit streak to 26. And Gomez is on the move again, and he'll make it as that one gets by Trainer. So another stolen base for New York. That is their third of the game.
Dave, that's how you infuse talent into your system, and that's how you grow as a franchise. You get young guys with speed, energy, guys like Carlos Gomez. He is going to be some major league player.
Now base hit, and the Mets put another one on the board as Delgado pulls one foul. So Carvajal runs the count full. And Marlins pitching now 9 full counts against the Mets this afternoon. A lot of pitches being thrown. Mets have cashed in with 2 outs a couple of times. 5 walks and a hit batter. Excuse me, 2 hit batters.
That's a bad baseball life when life is a 3-2 count. Get that many 3-2 counts, you know you're on the other end of it. As we take a look at the AL East, Boston starting in about 15 minutes in Tampa Bay.
We'll hear from Jeannie in just a moment with a game break. A lot of plate spinning in baseball right now. Playoff contenders. There's a broken bat. And shift on. It is Ramirez who makes the play. All right, Jeannie, take it away.
All right, gentlemen, Kyle Farnsworth got the Yankees into a mess. Melky Cabrera doing his best to get them out with an assist from Aaron Hill, who just can't seem to get the handle on that ground ball. 2 runs would score with 2 out in the bottom of the 8th. Yankees tie it up. Top of the 9th. Here comes Mariano Rivera.
Yanks have won 7 out of their last 10 and come up from off the deck a couple of times here this afternoon against the Blue Jays, with Rivera trying to close it out. Here in Miami, it's the New York Mets that are enjoying a plentiful afternoon at the plate with 7 runs.
Yankees scoring 4 late last night to tie it, and then the Blue Jays came back to win that game. If you're a baseball fan, this is a great time of year, plain and simple. When things are this tight, so many cities, so many teams, so many players and managers, fans involved.
Well, you know it's an important time of year when you get the same reaction after a win on the field that you get watching your opponent or the team that's chasing you lose back in the clubhouse after the game. And you're seeing those kind of reactions.
Yeah.
It's a great shot in the Philadelphia clubhouse. The other day when the Mets lost the opener of this series, the Phillies won, and they erupted in that clubhouse. Had everything but the champagne. Plenty of scoreboard watching for sure. Mets are trying to win back-to-back games for the first time in a couple of weeks.
Saying a baseball player and those associated with guys in uniform do not watch the scoreboard is like saying a broker doesn't watch the ticker tape on a daily basis, on a minute-to-minute basis.
Williams, the lefty, getting loose. Heilman, the right-hander. Heilman's been up and throwing for a couple of innings now. Miguel Cabrera will lead off for the Marlins in the bottom of the 9th. Sean Green trying to add to the lead. Oliver Perez with 8 innings and 2 runs, only 1 earned. Another unearned run today for Perez. And 102 pitches.
And a look at a very passive Billy Wagner in the bullpen. It's doubtful that he will be in this ball game.
Sean Green draws the walk. If you're just joining us, Billy Wagner's status still up in the air, and for Willie Randolph, if the Marlins make a big comeback, it is still up in the air. You don't really know if Wagner is available until he gets on the mound, and then he'll tell you, or he'll tell Willie. He has not thrown at all today. He did throw earlier off flat ground, but he has not thrown off the mound today in the bullpen. He'd just soon take the rest of the day off and assume that position until the end. Castro drives one into right center. Second out of the inning, Gomez tags, and we'll make it to third. So 2 outs here in the Mets' ninth. Well, there's your answer. Marlon Anderson will come on to hit for New York. So Perez is done and delivers 8 innings and the 8 strikeouts, no walks today for Oliver Perez. It was Perez who threw the last Mets complete game, a 9-inning complete game, last September. And it's Perez who saves the bullpen here today, making a bid at his 3rd win of the month.
Oliver Perez has started 28 games this year and has had no walks in a game 6 times.
And coming off a 6-walk performance his last time out.
Right. He righted the ship this afternoon in a lot of ways.
Just in time. Talk about plugging the holes in the boat. The Mets got a big stopper today in Perez. Pedro Martinez won yesterday. Pedro, if you look at the rest of the season, the way the games play out for the Mets, they don't have a day off, so Pedro would pitch Thursday against the Cardinals in that 1-game makeup, and then he would be ready for the opener of the postseason if the Mets make it in. And then Perez backing him up. Line shot on a hop to Ramirez, and he'll go the easy way for the out. And it's the last call for the Florida Marlins. Oliver Perez trying to win his 15th. That's bullpen trying to get him 3 outs to do it.
I'm Jeannie Zelasco back at the Fox Network Center. Milwaukee's Francisco Cordero trying to close out a win. Bottom 10, 2 outs. Scott Thorman has other ideas. It is gone. Tie ball game, top 11. 7th blown save for Cordero.
Seven to 2, the Mets trying to seal it up here and win their 2nd straight against the Marlins. And it's Aaron Heilman on to get the final 3 outs as the New York Mets have had a very balanced ball game today, both on the mound and at the plate. A couple of errors for the Mets today. One of them led to a run. Miguel Cabrera leads off for Florida. So Cordero gives up the home run to Thorman, and the Braves tied. That game goes now to the 11th. Cordero has been lights out for the Brewers this year, the franchise leader in saves, but gives one up this afternoon in Atlanta.
Top of the 10th inning, when the Brewers took the lead, you could hear that collective moan in Chicago, and then collective cheers when the Braves tied it up.
Cubs won earlier today. They beat the Pirates 9-5 in Chicago. Cubs come to Florida to play the Marlins beginning Monday. The Cubs will finish on the road while the Brewers will finish at home. Mets have 7 at home to finish the season. Padres finish on the road in Milwaukee.
That's a 4-game series too, right?
Yes, it is.
Boy, what a series that's going to be. Perhaps both teams with ramifications in the postseason.
1 man out, 2 outs away from a win for Oliver Perez, today's Chevrolet Player of the Game. And in recognition of his outstanding play, Chevy will make a $1,000 contribution to Major League Baseball charities. Chevy, an American Revolution. Those Marlins hearing those pops of the mitt all day today. 8 strikeouts for Perez, no walks. He goes 8 innings. And trying to win his 3rd game of the month of September and trying to go to 15 and 9 overall. David Wright, a 3-hit ball game with 3 singles. And the big blow was the home run by Castro. Ramon Castro with a 2-out 3-run homer that made a 2-0 game, a 5-0 game in the 4th. Mike Jacobs 0 for 3 today. As Heilman tries to keep him on the collar. Jacobs then Linden. John Maine tomorrow, Tim, for New York, and he'll try to match Perez as a 15-game winner tomorrow against Florida, the final game of the season, of the series, I should say.
Another guy that the Mets will try to get on track. John not having as good a second half as he had in the first half. A guy that a lot of people thought should have made the All-Star team.
Now the Mets bullpen has certainly been in the crosshairs during this losing run where New York has lost 6 of 8. And that's usually the way it is this time of year. Bullpens are going through the entire season. Starters bear that responsibility as well by going deep into a ball game and allowing the bullpens to rest. But with a small army out there to work with September call-ups, that's looking for some consistency from that pin. They got it last night. Scott Schoenweiss picked up the save last night. But the bullpen has struggled, Tim. 6 ERA and an 0-5 record in the last 8.
Maybe that's why Oliver Perez is still out there, just trying to make sure.
That'll be a base hit down the right field line. Extra bases for Mike Jacobs. And the Marlins are still alive here in the 9th inning. They're down 5, but they have a runner in scoring position as Jacobs comes up with his first hit of the game.
Like a changeup over the middle of the plate. Marlins need base runners. Steep hill to climb, however, trailing by 5.
Heilman struggles against lefties, continues and has one here in Todd Linden. When Heilman's been right, he's been right with that sharp slider.
And changeup. Changeup's his best pitch. Again, you put enough left-handers up there, and that negates that slider, because that slider is a pitch right into that happy zone of left-handed hitters.
Back-to-back fastballs with a lot of life, and a 94-mile-an-hour fastball that time to get it to a ball and a strike. Heilman's pitched in 3 games on this road trip, has not given up a run. Linden chased, 2 strikes. Almost hit him. Oliver Perez can't get this one over fast enough. Got a 5-run lead. But recent history.
He looked more relaxed when he was in there. That's the thing. If you're a pitcher and you're in there, you know you can do something about it. Pitched 8, realize it's not over yet.
Completely different body language from him now that he's out. He looked like he was almost ready to yawn or fall asleep when he was in the game. Really pinch hit for him after 8 innings. ALCS starting October 12th right here on Fox. Four teams in the American League looking pretty good to go to the postseason. And the Angels a magic number of 1 in the American League West. That's a ball club that had a lot of questions health-wise on the mound to start the year.
They're a dangerous team because they play more of a wide open game. They have to because they don't have the power the other teams have. Indians, Red Sox, Yankees, a lot of power. And the Angels with that first to third type offense. Stolen base, good defense, and good pitching.
Well, right now, Cleveland has the half-game lead when we started the day for the best record in the American League, and that matters this year.
Right.
You get the choice in the American League this season. Second out for the Mets here in the 9th inning as Heilman gets his first strikeout. Just kept bearing down on him with that fastball, and down he goes. But from that kind of frame, with that kind of height, and that kind of movement, it's like he's throwing a flat rock up there. Now 2 outs for Trainer. .96 miles an hour with that fastball.
Not question that radar gun.
It's a little hot.
That's hot. I don't think Aaron Heilman can throw 96 miles an hour.
Marlins down to their last out. And the Mets trying to seal up their second win, a chance to win the series tomorrow. And they will start the day, if they hang on here, with 8 games to play, at least a game and a half ahead of the Phillies. Phillies with an early run against Washington. That one's just underway at RFK. 1-0 Philadelphia.
The Mets certainly know how hot the Phillies have been because it's been at the expense of the New York Mets. Phillies have won 8 in a row against the Mets. We're telling the Mets that the Phillies are hot. That's an easy sell.
Now if Trainer gets on, Olivo would hit for Carroll. It is 7-2, right?
It is.
5-run lead.
It is.
A lot of backing out. A lot of grinding going on as Heilman tries to finish off the Marlins. And that should do it. So the Mets win back-to-back games for the first time since the 10th of September. And how about Oliver Perez, now a 15-game winner. And the New York Mets keep the pressure on the Phillies right behind them. It's a 2-game lead as we speak. 2 ahead in the loss column, and the Phillies just underway at RFK against the Nationals. So maybe the Mets have righted the ship here in Miami. 7-2 win. They'll have a chance to win the series with a victory tomorrow. Don't forget, next Saturday on Fox, the Cubs and the Reds. You can check your local listings for the game and time in your area. A lot of games with playoff implications. NFL on Fox tomorrow as well. Lions, Eagles, Giants, Redskins. Check your local listings for the game and the time in your area. All in high definition. Starts with the pregame show at 12 Eastern, 9 Pacific. Promotional consideration provided by For more information on today's game and for the latest in Major League Baseball news, log on to foxsports.com, powered by MSN, the world's favorite sports site. For Tim McCarver, I'm Brian Anderson saying goodbye from South Florida. You've been watching Fox Sports, your home of the 2007 ALCS and the World Series.